a big round of applause to my friend and yours, Paul Rees, in central Portugal. Let's bring him on.
Good morning.
Tudo bem?
What a fantastic crowd. Love the applause.
Rapturous, isn't it? Right. Very good to see you. Nice to
Well,
get a round of applause at 20 past 8.
What was the question about Portugal?
There you go. He said it, everybody. That's how you say it, Portugal. It's not that difficult, is it? Especially when you've
there's two accents on it.
Yes, as we can see on the screen at the moment, right? The first one over
what is its meaning, dear viewer?
Oh, Portugal.
It is disputed.
Is it a little dragon?
Portugal? No, it's not. Portugal. Pequena was founded in 150 BC by the Romans.
Was it?
Yeah,
I remember it well.
I believe it means a white rock. So there may well have been a white rock in the granite overlooking the river, because it was a crossing before the Philippine Bridge, which was erected in 1608 to 10. I think she had a short period of Philippine-ness. There's a Roman bridge there, and you can still see the foundations either side of the Roman bridge. So it's always been a crossing point.
Did you really just say Filipinas?
No.
Okay, good, excellent. Let's move on then.
So hold on a minute. Second point about what goes through your mind this time of day. It's quite concerning. I mean, too early for me, my old son.
Okay. So,
I
can barely speak now. I can barely speak. There's quite a lot to process there. Big rocks, white rocks.
White. Yeah.
But that's for Portugal means white rock, doesn't it? So you've got Grande.
I believe it is. Actually, its meaning is disputed, but that's one of the.
Big white rocks and small white rock. Okay, and 150 BC. That's incredible. So I think we've sorted that out. We've got the pronunciation. Good. We've got the derivation. Do you know Isabel Stilwell? That was the other question I had.
I'm not sure. I mean, the Stilwell name goes back decades in Portugal. I knew.
That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There was a Stilwell in the Algarve who was a friend of my dad. So he would have been born in 1918, 1920, who was one of the developers of tourism, and I believe was involved in the Penina golf course and hotel when it was built. I'm pretty sure he was in charge of building the hotel. And I've been in touch with his son for some reason, but also there's a Stilwell on the board of EDP. A long Portuguese name was Stilwell as one of them. So it's a well embedded name.
That's amazing, isn't it? So like the port families in the north, where you see British sounding names, these are Brits who came long ago and made their way into society for different reasons here in Portugal.
Yeah, 60s and 70s, that group. I mean, the main swathe came in the post Faro Airport, right. which was in the late 60s, I believe. So the sort of 70s and 80s, when my parents arrived, they were the second wave. The first wave was a 4-hour drive down from Lisbon.
Yes, of course. Yes. And was Mr. Stilwell possibly the gentleman who was among the first to create holidaying in Portugal as an idea? And he laid on I don't know if it is the same person, but I've been wanting to find out about a wonderful couple that I read about in one of the English language papers, who discovered Portugal in that sort of Christopher Columbus kind. I mean, it was always here, of course, and people were here, but discovered it for a constituency, if you like, and decided to put on a kind of early PR effort probably in the 1960s, and had the journalists conveyed from. Would they have come? How would they have arrived in the Algarve? Anyway, the part of their journey into the holiday that he laid on for them was to get into a donkey and cart scenario and be carried that way to enjoy their holiday. Do you know who that is? I mean, he looked like a proper British fellow with almost a tweed or plaid suit on and thick glasses and a pork pie hat. Do you know who that might be?
There was some extraordinary post-war characters that came to Algarve really early. There was a well-known one who had business interests in and around Albufeira. I can't remember his name. He was a
guy, yeah.
I think he was a hurricane pilot. Pat somebody. I can't remember.
What brilliant characters and legends. A
hurricane.
hurricane.
No, they're extraordinary. There was Timmy Thomas as well, who I think was shot down more than he shot down anything else. But the other one, the Albufeira one, had bars. Yeah, the original bars for in and around Albufeira. It's fascinating guy. But his obituary, it was like a boy's own story. I mean, I think he shot down 23 enemy aircraft. I just thought, well, I think I'll retire to the beach. I knew somebody that was close to him when I interviewed her, well in her 90s, and she said, "Oh dear boy, he was barely sober from the day he arrived." Well, good luck to him, I say. But no, the early characters, I think stood out because there were few and far between.
That must have been. Can you imagine, Paul, coming here on holiday and meeting him in a bar and just hearing the story?
The expat, the lady I interviewed, I asked her what it was like here in the 60s when she arrived. Yes. She said, "Darling, I'd been brought up in a large house in Berkshire. The next thing I knew, I was surrounded by drunks and beaches." Said it was absolutely wonderful.
Oh, excellent!
Yeah, quite an interesting time period there, but well before my baselines in the early 80s.
Incredible. I mean, I suppose there's still a lot of mileage in that, isn't it? And the further we move away from them and their time, in many ways, the more mythical and legendary their stories and their personas become. There's still a lot to be said about them, and I think we should remember them.
If you want to research it, the Anglo-Portugal News.
Oh yes,
a long-running publication edited by Mr. Len Port, superhero international journalist.
He's still writing things, isn't he?
He's still alive, yeah. He's still knocking out the copy. A great friend. It's been digitalized and you can search on it. So I searched myself and found that one of my brothers was the treasurer of Avpop for many years. I thought that's something to do with sheep and wolves and
How brilliant! How
brilliant. No, it's good at Anglo-Port. It's just come out digitally. It's fantastic.
That name is so evocative of another time as well, isn't it? You can imagine that was probably dreamed up in a bar, wasn't it? It's like, we can't sit here drinking all day. Yeah. What are we going to do? Well, more people seem to be interested in this place. We should start a newspaper.
Yeah, exactly.
Drunken memories the next day. Did we start a newspaper yesterday? Yeah. Yes. Anglo-Portugal News. I've got some chaps coming over to write for it. I need to pick them up later on.
Happy days. Time. One wonders what the inland regions, and especially the central region, was like back then, pre-EU, pre-motorways and roads and this, that, and the other. And it would have had a railway system that's probably more extensive than now.
Yeah.
But I would love to time travel back to anywhere and go back 50 years. Pre-revolution, and just see what was really going on. It'd be fascinating.
Can we recreate that as a holiday experience, Paul?
Well, the Salazar weekend, could do.
The Salazar weekend in Faro. Okay.
Yeah. Well, the jails are still around, aren't they?
Yes, they are. For anybody who steps out of line, that's the constant threat hanging in the air.
And there'd be no graffiti, of course. Yeah,
no graffiti. Yes, I think a nice woolen suit to put on arrival and a hat, a very sensible hat. This plan is coming together, but that's not why you came here this morning. As much fun as that's been, let's roll a little bit of VT and find out what you've been up to in central Portugal with your projects. I think my video deck here has shuffled them. Will that be a massive problem if I just press any of them at random?
Well, just see what's going on. I forget what you've got.
Oh, okay, that's good. Okay, well let's both catch up with what you've been up to. Okay, I'm going to do them in longest first, then, and we'll make our way through them.
All right, we'll see what we've got.
Yeah. Okay, let's have a look.
Okay, Gumpers. This is to show you what Skullduggery Rural Properties gets up to. We just bought a large building in Sertã, in the historic area, in which are two rather perfect apartments. I say perfect, they're untouched in many, many years. So they have wooden floors in good condition, shutters, lovely old panelling. More importantly, a little kitchen. More importantly, a rather splendid view to the church and over the town. So there's two apartments plus, lucky us, a free little house in the yard that was designated as storage, but it will soon be divided off, made into a little 80 square metre house with its own garden. And then the building next door we bought as well is more apartments and a yard with the original cobbles. So it's a trip down history lane. So work has started on the little house and will soon start on the apartments. More news soon.
Oh look, we found a little house in the garden.
Yeah, well, it was down as storage, but in fact I inquired from an elderly neighbour, and he said, "Oh, I remember the family lived there. They were cobblers and left in 1980." Really? So it has got a history of occupation. Luckily, should I ever need to prove that to the council, but it's
fair enough.
It's a 3-level house. I mean, it's just down as a storage thing. It was complete to the sellers. It was just completely irrelevant. It's the shed in the yard, but to me, it's probably resell at about 170,000. So I was quite happy to take that off their hands, as they say.
What a lovely find, and that style of the corridor. I myself ended up in an old bed and breakfast renovation project in Korea near Anadia and Meliada, and it reminded me of that building where the room's off a central corridor. That's quite a popular building style, isn't it? From that sort of
it is. Yeah. And in houses too. You enter the front door, you look down the corridor, and there's the toilet with the seat up, and it's left, right, room, left, right.
Yes.
Usually with a kitchen and toilet added on the back in concrete that leaks, and that's where you get the mold neatly segueing into your next
wonderful feng shui right there. The open toilet seat at the end of the corridor. Why though? Was it for simplicity of build that they would have been made like that?
Because it's always been like that, I think. Yeah. Okay. I mean, it was pre-open plan living and central heating. So it's lots of separate rooms. The bedrooms are sort of kept cold. And the living room, there'll be one room with a fire that everyone clumps around.
Yes.
Traditionally, then you'd have the kitchen and the massive chimney that people would sit around and eat in the kitchen. Yeah. But these apartments were posh. A scion of the family lived there till she died, I think 3 or 4 years ago.
Right.
And it looks like she never did any renovations. They clearly added a toilet. It was a duplex, not 2 apartments. It was one apartment on 2 levels. The loo was clearly added later. So I don't even ask how they used to function before. But they're in untouched condition. The woodwork's superb. It was all carpeted or linoed. And
yes.
Lifting that rather hesitantly, it revealed an absolutely perfect wooden floor, which you would spend a lot of money to replace if it was.
Yeah, it looked great. And I could see the telltale signs of a ripped up lino there, or oilcloth, as some people call it. And pretty much unlived in since the 80s.
No, the house in the back is unlived in since the 80s. The inside of that was wood, so that's now been removed. Okay. So inside is just a void now, so we can redesign it. No, the apartments, the lady lived there till I think 3 or 4 years ago, and that must have prompted the family. Which there was, I think, 7 signatures at the Escritura, prompted them to start. But it was that building and the one next door they owned as well. So I've inherited I'm now landlord of a shoe shop who pays the princely sum of between 50 and 100 euros a month. And
incredible.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, no, it's good.
Right,
It is.
right.
So it's very interesting building, and our design team from Portimao are coming up next week to offer some redesign options.
How incredible. Sertã. So lots to be said about that little town. I was there a few months ago. It's wonderful, isn't it? On the river there. A place of another beer festival I went to, which Beer Yoga. They do a nice little festival there, don't they? And a very interesting and lovely town in central Portugal, Sertã. Let's have a little look at a little bit more video, shall we? And see what you've got for us here.
So, Rural Properties is now the proud owner of 2 apartments on top of each other in Sertã's historic zone, with much of the original features. Lovely wooden ceilings, all in good condition, lovely floors. But the most important thing is the view. There we are. It's worth a few euros of anybody's money. So work has commenced on the outside, but I've got to show you the original bathroom. I mean, a classic tub. It's for long, thin people, or maybe a couple of adults. Wonderful. So I might preserve that bidet and sink as well. So there's always something one can keep. But there we are. That's the pride and joy.
That must be one of the finer and more enjoyable moments of what you do. Is when you can get a sense of the history of a place and just walk around having purchased it. How much of that will remain, do you think, in the renovation of that look? I mean, those little details like the window lights above the doors. That's a lovely touch, isn't it? I guess that's bringing some street light into the corridor, and the little upstands, where the door architraves meet the skirting in a grand little way, don't they? With a little sort of pillar coming up from the skirting board. How many of these details will you keep for in the renovation? Really? Okay, excellent.
Yeah, the wooden floors will be stripped with our industrial weapons grade stripper sander, and restained. Some of the woodwork's heavily varnished and stained anyway, so that will be painted a lighter colour, and just the whole place will be modernised, but the structure will remain the same. We'll cut out some walls to make larger rooms, but the walls are all lath and plaster, so they're not load bearing. So we can be interesting to show you when it's finished. Actually, it'll be.
Let's track this journey with you, if we may. So more to show you now.
Yeah, it'll be markedly different, but also underneath the same.
Yeah, of course. Okay, let's have a look a little bit more. I'll do a couple back to back here.
So when Rural Properties buys old apartments, this one being in the historic centre of Sertã, it's interesting to find a 1960s extendable lamp that goes meant to go up and down. It's probably over a table. The main thing though is the original features, such as the kitchen tiling, all the floors, and the woodwork, shuttering, panelling, and some rather splendid ceilings. Some of the lighting fixtures were obviously unwanted presents from the looks of it. So this soon will be I wouldn't say modern, but modernised, upgraded apartment. And there's the same size above, so we'll make 2 out of what was 1 apartment on 2 levels. So that's what we're up to. People ask me what we look for when buying old buildings. Well, this kitchen, I look for the original tiles. Massive old chimney, obviously. and original woodwork. Shutters. The windows are replacement, so they'll be replaced. Shutters, some nice panelling, beautiful wooden floor preserved by carpeting and lino, and fantastic ceilings, all of which add value to what will become 2 apartments in Sertã's historic zone. The main thing, of course, forgetting all that, the main thing is the view, which is very pleasant on a crisp evening. Excellent.
I'm feeling the vibe of that when those floorboards are sanded and the walls have been whitewashed, possibly. No wood chip, no magnolia, just some brilliant, brilliant white, and a summer evening, and a breeze. You know, maybe some nice. I could just feel it, the breeze coming in across on a summer evening. What a lovely place.
It's a fantastic view, and I think they were reluctant to sell, but enough of them were skint that made it. I think they must have had a family meeting. Hard to deal with it. I think the deal took 8 months to put together. So it was, yes. And a few grumpy and sad faces at the lawyer's office, but when the check was produced, there were smiles all around. So. Yes. I think it's quite often a relief, I think, to families because they're earning nothing from it, from the rents, really, enough to cover the houses haven't been maintained. So it's economically idiotic to hang on to things just because it was built by grandpa, you know. So it's and quite a well-known local family too. One of them was a previous mayor, so they're quite well known. That all their fiscal addresses are in Sertã. Even though they came far and wide to sign. So,
well, they'll be keeping an eye on what you're doing, won't they, as well, of course?
It's kind of the end of an era. But part of what I need to try and ensure is they feel that they're handing over a property into good hands. And they don't.
So, yes, absolutely. Well, as I say, they will be watching you, won't they? They will be watching and seeing what's happening.
Yeah. And that is interesting. A lot of it is the sort of emotional side, because it's invariably multiple owners, and you know, families never agree. And what you don't want is the next family meeting, one saying we should never have sold that, and says see what they've done to it. They've not done that, or whatever. So it is quite an interesting path to try and navigate as best I can.
Well, it's lovely to hear you taking that seriously and having even a thought about that, because you don't need to, do you, necessarily? Aviva's here this morning. Joao, I find seeing all the empty properties very disheartening. Well, you haven't spent much time here yet, Jackie. Get used to that. Although Paul is doing his best to bring them back into service. They look so sad, but with patience, love, and a few euros, they could look amazing. That's exactly what's happening. The wooden ceilings and floors in good condition are very appealing, and Hugh on the same page here. Keep the wood natural, which I suspect you will be. I see a wall or two that could be knocked out. Will you do that? Asked Ernesto. So some of that will be going on. Global Noble's also in. Look, Martin, when you renovate, do you also redo the plumbing and electric? You will of course do that.
Essential, yeah.
Do you have to? Are you obliged to do that in a property and bring what seem like dangerous electrics up to date?
No, but I don't want to fry anyone. So
that's very good of you. Yes.
Yeah, I don't want any claims. And renovations like this don't need camera approval. It's not a project. I'm not changing the footprint or anything dramatic.
Really? Okay, that's good to know. Right.
I mean, I've talked to them anyway, as long as I are sensitive about the windows, and it's the old thing. It's what they're more interested in what the outside looks like than the inside.
Yes.
But we're having to divide. I mean, the two buildings side by side, and the spare house at the back are under two property numbers, two registration numbers, so they have to be divided into fractions. So that requires an engineer's floor plan going in, justifications, etc. All that's been done and submitted, so it will be divided up legally, and along with that obviously EDP, IREDs need to come and put in multiple meters, and they will want to see that the wiring is done properly and upgraded. So it's
very good
a process, but I don't want to flood or electrocute anyone. So
no, that's very good of you. And the tiles that you mentioned, how much of that will you keep?
Well, the kitchen, I rather like the kitchen as is. I think putting a sort of space age kitchen in there look a bit strange, as much as possible. And I mean, they'll also, with care, lift off the wall, but that kitchen area is tiled up to about 1 meter and a bit all the way around.
Yes,
and it's quite a traditional look. If you strip out all the other bits, just leave the tiling, you can create something that is sensitive to its era.
How lovely. How lovely. Good to see you here, Antonio F. Joao F. Sorry, Joao E. I assume the place did not have modern heating or cooling. No, just had windows for that sort of thing. Putting that in makes the open spaces sensible. Well, and possible, of course. So what will go in there? Log burners, pellet heater, this sort of thing?
There was a salamander in one of the apartments, but long since gone because the vent hole was blocked up. Very possibly put in a couple of salamanders, but of the ornate variety, depending on the style that we choose. But there'll be, because of the sun exposure from midday onwards, I'll put in probably air conditioning split system, so you got hot and cold. I don't like doing that. It's difficult to put in a full sort of pellet powered central heating system in 100 square meters. I mean, it's kind of, or putting in heat pumps and things. It's not it's not economic really. But if somebody catches the apartment early and wants it, we can design a system according to their needs as well.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that because it's so exciting, isn't it, to see it at this stage and then possibly be influential as the buyer to see what you want to keep and or add to the property. So that's possible, isn't it, when people work with you?
It can be done if somebody, as I say, catches it early on. That was a model that we've used in the past, mostly on larger farmhouses, where we wait till we have a buyer and they can have the rooms configured as they want. But it's kind of easier on bigger properties. Apartments kind of lend themselves to a certain layout anyway.
Yes,
and making some open plan spaces, cutting through walls. So it's, but yeah, open to all offers. Incidentally, it's quite interesting. Up the road in Pedrógão Pequeno, where we have Casa Adelina.
Yes,
I was looking at the pricing of that, which is 275, and it's less per square meter than an apartment in Sertã, and I mean an apartment on the edges of Sertã, in the sort of I wouldn't say the commuter belt, but the outskirts where they've got the sort of clumpy modern blocks.
Yes.
A sort of 14, 15, 1600 a meter. The house that is beautifully renovated, a whole house in Pedrógão Pequeno, with a terrace but no garden, is 1400 a meter. So instead of an apartment, you can have a whole house for that. So it is
very interesting.
So we'll be aiming at the top level in terms of pricing for the Sertã ones in the historic area.
I noticed you mentioning that historic area. Yes, it is a lovely town. It's if you're not familiar with it, go visit Sertã. It's really a lovely place, and that section along by the river there, where they put public events on, is really very nice.
Two rivers, two river towns.
Is it the confluence? Is it right? Okay, very good.
I think there is a confluence. Yeah.
Okay, I remember that. A final piece of video then before we say goodbye and farewell to you, at least for the time being. We'll see you again every month, of course. And rural-properties.com is where you'll find Paul and other properties. Let's have a look at one more video.
I'm in the upper apartment of Rural Properties' recent purchase in Sertã's historic zone. Lovely floors, lovely ceiling, everything wood. It's got the old windows above the doors. This will make a fantastic apartment for a new buyer with, that's the view. Very nice. This is what we get up to, is buying old buildings from people that, very complicated. There's 7 signatories in a family that wasn't really speaking, but we got there in the end. And we're now the proud new owners and the landlord of a shoe shop, but that's another story.
Right. Are you taking offers in the future from cobblers relocating to Portugal? I guess it could all be talked about, couldn't it?
It's extra. The cobbler has been there for 44 years.
Oh, bless him. Right.
He's got a kind of fixed rent, and we asked to see the rental contract, and he just shook his head. So he said, "There's never been one." He said, I shook hands 44 years ago, and it's been like that ever since. Now, of course, financiers are saying, "Well, yes, can you submit the rental contract?" And I said, "Well, there isn't one." They said, "Well, there must be."
There must be. Yes. Right.
I think for the cost of doing the paperwork and everything, I'll just let him. I'll charge him €1 a month.
Yeah,
it's worth it, because it's definitely cost us more in admin and bureaucracy than the rent.
Good for you, and good for him as well. After that sort of career and being part of Portuguese culture like that, I think he should be subsidised and looked after. So thanks for doing that, Paul, and your sensitivity on this matter. We drove there for dinner last night to Sertã, only 50-minute drive from Pequeno to what a great part of the world. Good to see you here this morning, Henry, and you, Wayne, as well. Thank you for your picture of enjoying the Super Bowl. I think you enjoyed the Super Bowl coverage, didn't you, Paul? It was explained in a way that until now had eluded us, right? The parallels of the game. Yeah. A couple of final pictures then. These are stills, and we're looking at the balcony that you were showing us from the other angle.
Yeah, that's looking from the Igreja Matriz back over towards the building. Yeah. So it's the two sandy coloured ones. So a bit of a jumble, but.
What sort of windows have we got there? Have we got wooden single?
No, they're aluminium replacement.
Are they? Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Always great fun talking to you and finding out what you're up to in Central Portugal. Let me just put the link to your website so people can see those and more.
Yeah, we've got lots of other stuff.
Okay. Yep, good. And what sort of day are you looking forward to in a drizzly Central Portugal, I'm guessing?
The sun is shining. I've got a meeting at
good for you.
A meeting at 10 o'clock. Then I've got a showing at midday, and it's all that sort of stuff. I was up in way north of Porto last week.
Right.
Yeah, we're doing a lot more third-party sales. People approach us saying, "We've tried estate agents. Can we try you to sell our crumbling pile or swathe of countryside?" So we went to one place overlooking the Douro. I mean, it's fantastic, where you've got the pristine vineyards either side and this overgrown sort of triangle in the middle.
How tempting is that, though? I mean, obviously you don't want to be trading on a reputation for handling crumbling piles, but it must be tempting when people say, "I've got this amazing property," and they're probably right. A bit like Hugh's Place, there are these fabulous residences, aren't there, around Portugal? And your curiosity must get the better of you sometimes with these.
Well, yeah, I'm curious, and it's that we tend to be contacted by people, by like-minded people. It's just they've got a problem, and they like what we represent and what we offer, and they don't want to deal with Remax or Era or the mainstream
for some reason.
Agents. I mean, I've got a trade agency license, but I would never ever call myself an estate agent ever.
Never.
It was a sad day when I had to apply for my AMI license, only to sell third-party properties. I legally have to.
Yes.
I'm all right selling our own, but it was a sad day. But no, there was sort of two amazing places, and I am getting 1 or 2 inquiries a week, many of which I reject because it's a 4-bedroom house.
Yes,
on the coast somewhere, not interested. But if it's something historic or rural with a potential income or overgrown or whatever, because we got buyers for things like that. It's amazing who looks at our website. It's quite extraordinary.
Incredible. Okay, well, I was going to get you a pink shirt and a Filofax for Christmas, but I won't be doing it. Maybe after all, okay. All right.
Get the sort of burgundy-coloured trousers. Yeah.
Oh yes, now you're talking, Paul. Instead of a rental agreement, says Antonio F, you can make a contrato de comodato, which is a free rental agreement. A little bit of
Antonio, I think I probably will, because it's really not worth collecting the rent.
And how lovely for that particular gentleman. I can only imagine what the shop's like. There must be some boots in there that have been waiting for somebody to pick them up since.
Because he fixes shoes as well as sells them. But,
yes, incredible.
But I mean, don't imagine he's a poor struggling cobbler. He owns the building opposite.
Oh, you've ruined it for me. Okay, all right. Charge him rent then.
Okay. My hairdresser, barber's in Sertã, who knows everything, Frank.
Yes.
He gives me all the lowdown on everyone.
It's just
he said, don't be fooled, the guy's loaded. So
excellent. Okay, Paul, have a great day. Have a great month.
Right, we'll thanks a lot.
See you in March. All the best. Okay, take care. Bye for now. Gotcha. Wonderful. Right. Okay. The crowdfunder for a pink shirt and a Filofax for Paul. Forget about that, everybody. We'll have to give him something different for Christmas. Right. I was going to do Battaglia Take 2. It's going to have to be Battaglia Take 3. It's so much fun and so interesting talking to Paul that we've run out of time again. I can't believe it. But I will play a little bit of video from Battaglia. We've played a lot of video this morning. We had a great time, of course, with Expats Portugal in Battaglia over the weekend. Written about it. It'll be in the Portugal Resident tomorrow. I would love to share with you the moment in our tour where Filomena showed us the highest dome, not just in Portugal, but in all of the world at the Battaglia Monastery. So let me just hand over to Filomena as she shares with us this remarkable, feat of architectural stone masonry. Okay, this is the Good Morning Portugal on the Expats Portugal day trip, basically the field trip to the Battaglia Monastery, and let's have a look who's here with us. Guess who I bumped into?
And
Filomena.
In the chapels with the highest dome in the world.
See, Portugal's so modest. Portugal's so modest about these things. We're going to go through and look at it in just a moment, but this is incredible, Filomena. Could you just repeat that for the benefit of everybody?
The highest dome in the world.
Here in Portugal.
In the world.
Okay, so here it's Portuguese, folks. It's the first. It's the only. It's the highest dome in the world.
Turn it up.
There you
and
go.
It's a blue one. Lovely
it's
blue
beautiful.
one.
Take that, Sistine Chapel. Wonderful. So we've been to Almorol Castle, haven't we, in the river today? We've been to Sertã. To see a small collection of I was going to say Castilian, his apartments in the sky there in Sertã. And I just want to show you a little bit more of a creative video I made of this highest dome in the world. You might want to hold on to something as you look at this, though, and hopefully you haven't had your breakfast yet. But just look at this. It just gives you a little bit more insight into the architecture there. And these are the unfinished chapels, apparently, of Battaglia Monastery. An amazing place. I've written more about it and the history of it in the Resident this week. And I'll show you more pictures tomorrow. We'll have to do Battaglia Take 3 tomorrow. But just check this out before we go. And we can't go until we've addressed a few more comments here. I expect a few other domes in the world have those infinite ceilings. That's what they would be called in real estate, Paul. The infinite ceiling, as in no roof. My neighbour used to say the monastery in Battaglia will be finished before your house. Excellent. And I love her sense of humour, says James. That's brilliant. The monastery will be finished before your house. I did some rappelling down Almorol Castle a few decades ago. That would be impossible now. Was it official or not? Did you just take your ropes there, Antonio F, and just threw them over the side and had a bit of fun there? And going back, yes, not so deep thought. If good is less than very good and not very good, then is not very good, the same as good. Oh, you've confused me there, João Ernesto. Thank you for that. And you also say, well, in our conversation, reflecting on the conversation with Paul earlier on, and legendary expats, I find expats in general to have quite interesting lives just by virtue of being elsewhere than their native home. It means they are unlike the usual hoi polloi. And going back to the complexity or not of cooking Portuguese food and recipes, it's thought to be the second most difficult to cook in the world. And the comparison was made by Jackie with Portuguese and Welsh food. Used to buy mackerel from the fishermen at Fishguard Harbour, a little flour and slapped in the pan. Gorgeous. Well, you can do that here in Portugal as well. And maybe we will the weekend when we see you, Coach. Thank you for being here. A little bit of a plug for the upcoming weekend where we'll see the coach. Come and meet him and many other Gumpers who will be there having a great time at the weekend. See you soon. See you in the morning. Take care. Bye for now. Have a great